Well, Australia is facing a crisis, though, when it comes to our kids. Youth crime is soaring, violence is on the rise in classrooms, and too many children are just slipping through the cracks.
Parents feel helpless, teachers feel burnt out, and many think the system is broken. But our next guest believes she's found a solution, and it starts before kids even step foot in a classroom. Sylvia Aroten is a child development expert, the founder of Guide and Grow, and she joins us now in the studio. Sylvia, good to see you. Now, we first heard you on Neil Mitchell's podcast.
Yes.
And you were speaking really about how the curriculum that we're seeing in classrooms these days is way past its expiry date. Talk to us through that.
Absolutely. I feel like the current education system is not really preparing children for the digital world that we live in today in the modern society. It was all about compliance, standardisation, testing, but we're not preparing children with real life practical skills, the critical thinking skills, problem solving, social emotional well-being, which is so key in today's digital era.
I think there's a lot of people out there going to be going, yes, this is 100% right. But at a time when we're trying to get kids off the digital devices, how do we incorporate your way of thinking into curriculum?
Yeah, and it's really about that conscious communication. So I really specialise in bridging that gap between the breakdown of relationships. So we see now, because of the digital technology, like you just said, it's really about that relationship building, that communication that's now broken. Because the technology, when it's in the home or in the classrooms, it's that barrier between face-to-face personal relationships. And we don't have the skill set on how to communicate anymore. What are the skills that we're teaching children to really bridge that gap and help them prepare for the life that they're going to be living?
We are seeing, though, right across the country, a lot of schools take devices off children, so they're not actually allowed to go into classrooms with their phones or whatever. Is that helping?
I think it's helping, but it's more of a systemic kind of approach where in the home, in the parents, we know that parents are children's first teachers. Everything that's going on in the home needs to be happening across the board at schools as well. There needs to be communication, and that's where I've seen the biggest breakdown. What's happening in early childhood settings and schools is not being almost mimicked, or there's no communication between what's happening in the home and the school. So everyone's doing their own thing. No one's talking to each other. And that's where I see the issue.
It's the easiest thing in the world when you're a parent to go, okay, Harper can just have some time on a device, right?
Yep.
And we've got all sorts of different apps now on, with educational tools on them. But you're 100% right. So where do we intervene there? And how do we intervene and make the experience more communicative?
It's a great question, and I think it comes down to fundamental opportunities for independence, for making choices, for problem solving, like involving your kids in your everyday life activities at home, involving them in decision making. These are key skills that children...
Like where to go to dinner, or...?
They could, they could. But when was the last time you asked your children, what would you like for dinner? Or let's think about, what we're going to do this week as a family.
But the flip side of that is you give kids too much choice, and they've got to be told what to do, and there's got to be boundaries.
Absolutely. I'm all about firm boundaries and healthy boundaries, but it's in that, Maria Montessori called it freedom within limits, right? Children are allowed to have that freedom within certain limits, respecting themselves, respecting others, and respecting the environment. So I think it's so important. Kids thrive on boundaries, we know that, but it's about having that balance. So what are you doing outside of the digital time to connect with your kids, to build relationships with your kids?
And is it about taking some of that responsibility off teachers too? Because they're often the ones who are copying it right from parents who are upset. I mean, they feel burnt out. And then you've got this wave of youth crime that we're seeing across the country as well.
Yeah, it's a problem that's coming up a lot more, especially with teachers being burnt out, stressed, overworked classrooms. There's one teacher to 25, 30 students. Some of them are needing extra support. Teachers aren't being trained adequately, with child psychology or communication skills. So I think it comes from a multifaceted approach.
Look, it's fascinating talking to you. I'd love to get you back. And if you've got any questions at home that you would like answered, send them in and we'll get you back to answer those.
Thanks for having me.
Talk to you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Really interesting perspective.